We are live. I think we're rocking and rolling already. Yes, we are live. Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and fire this up. All right, welcome to the Money Lab Live podcast, episode number 69, the Investing Aggressively in Self Money Story. All right, welcome back to another live broadcast of the Money Lab podcast from the Six Figure Academy. It's like I've never done this before. I am your host, Wei Hong from the Six Figure Academy. And this is the podcast where we give you tips, strategies, and interviews with other entrepreneurs on how to create the ultimate six-figure entrepreneur lifestyle, free of bad money stories, money anxiety, and stress so that you can monetize your dreams and execute your genius. Now, if you haven't already downloaded our free ebook From Money Anxiety to Six-Figure Mastery, make sure you go to go.thesixfigureacademy.com and get it there. It's the perfect complement to all the things we discuss on the show, and quite frankly, we've been told that it could change your life. Now, if you are joining us live today and you are not on YouTube, which is where we are today with our guest, make sure you get on Spreaker.com or download the Spreaker app on your mobile device and search for the hashtag The Money Lab so that you can join us in the chat room and ask questions, interact with us and our guest, or even request a specific topic to discuss that will help support you in your quest for the ideal six-figure lifestyle. And you do want to participate with today's guest because he's done some amazing things as an entrepreneur all over the world. So while you're there, subscribe so that you don't miss an episode and you can catch us every week. Now, for all other ways to find us, go to the sixfigureacademy.com/radio for all the details. And if there's something you love about what you hear on this episode today that you know could help someone you care about, remember, sharing is caring. So share the show to that person, okay? So I'm really excited because I was introduced to our guest today by a fellow coach of mine. And basically, when I got a chance to finally meet him, we had a quick little talk, instantly made a connection because he was a fellow entrepreneur on the other side of the planet, but doing amazing things, helping other entrepreneurs create six-figure lifestyles, you know? And so just to give you a little bit about what this guy is, all about, he is a online business coach, okay, working out of Slovenia, but he's actually on travel. He's on tour, basically speaking around the planet. He's in New York actually right now doing our show today. And he helps experts, coaches, and online business owners share their expertise through 10 to 25,000 word ultimate guides, which is a fascinating thing because those are the types of things you want to be able to provide that content to help people bring people in the door to understand and get to know you better and position you as an expert. So this helps them build an online following of thousands of raving fans and gets them endless streams of new clients for their business. And who, as an entrepreneur, doesn't want that? So Primoz, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, I'm super excited to be here. What's up?
I know. You're actually not even Slovenian. I was so excited about saying, he's all the way in Slovenia right now. But no, you're actually domestic in New York, which is still exciting, but not quite as exciting as saying, I'm in Slovenia.
We'll just have to do more interviews then. Although, chances are, 50-50, I'm in Slovenia or I'm on the other side of the planet, so you never know.
I know. So what we'll have to do is next time we get you on the show, we're going to say, make sure that you're in Slovenia when we do the show so we can say, hey, we have an international, guest today. But It seems like you're in a comfortable place. You're at your buddy's place. You're sitting on a gaming chair, which I absolutely, Is it comfortable? Because I thought about getting one.
It's so comfortable, man. I was just thinking about it. This is the most comfortable chair I've ever lived in. Yeah. It's I could be here for 14 hours. It's a gaming chair. It makes sense, right? Yeah, exactly. It's I need this in my life. Oh my God.
My only challenge is that it doesn't have, they've always got these bright, gaudy, flashy colors that really, if I have a black and chrome office and I have this orange and black chair, it just doesn't fit or match.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I was thinking is it's I'm in a race car.
I think they call it that, right? It's the race car chair or something like that.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Who knows?
Maybe.
I know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so welcome to the show. And, what I want to do is just get out of the way is that, the Money Lab is all about people's money stories and what kind of money story and you had a really cool story that you shared with me. And I want you to be able to share that with our audience today because, one of the big things about the show is to inspire people who have who are dealing with the challenges today of stories that they grew up with that's getting in the way of their business. You obviously broke free of that at a very early age, which I'm excited for you to share. So tell us a little bit about your money story that you grew up with, because you didn't grow up from you didn't grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, like, I lived in a family that, like, we weren't poor, we weren't rich, like, it was somehow, like, middle class. Mm-hmm. And my parents' philosophy was always, like, just save a lot of money. And also, like, go to university, get a full-time job, get married, have kids, live a boring life,
Right.
Yeah, so that was their philosophy, which is totally fine, right? And what you have to understand coming from Slovenia, like in Slovenia, talking about money is almost like a taboo, right?
Right.
Like, it's very weird to talk about money, because everybody who talks about money, every time I talk to my parents about money or friends, it's almost like, well, the people who make a lot of money are really bad people, and they're either tycoons or drug dealers, or, they do something really, really wrong. It's not like they create a lot of value, they make a big impact, they're compensated for it. It's always like, oh, a lot of money, this guy has to be a bad person. Right. So growing up with that money story was kind of hard, right? And I saw, like there are moments in my business when I would almost like not want to make more money subconsciously, because I was thinking, well, if I make millions, like, will people still want to hang out with me? Oh, like, it's going to be weird for them, like, if I have this penthouse apartment, or if I have this, sports car or whatever, because those are things that, like, would be fun for me. Right. Like, will that mean that, my family will be almost, like, ashamed of me? Like, I even had this situation where a friend of mine, like, his mother was like, so what does Primoz do? Does he do drugs? And I was like, like that kind of stuff like actually happens,
Wow.
And then subconsciously you think like, oh, if I'm going to make a lot of money, I'm going to be alone.
Yeah.
So
wow.
That's not the best money story to grow up with.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't even notice it for a long amount of time, but it was the original money story. It was like, like be conservative, and blah, 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 blah. But here's the cool thing.
Yeah.
I'm a rebel, right? If somebody tells me to do one thing, I'll do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So what do you think happened when people will tell me how to, like, you should save a lot of money? I spent everything. I was like, I would do the exact opposite, which is so much better, right? It's like, so I would spend, money on like candy and on clothes, like any stupid thing I could find, until like I was like 20, I would like spend all of my money instantly on the stupidest thing I could find.
Right.
So that was the actual money story that I made for myself, which was like, I wanted to do the opposite of what my parents told me. So I'll just spend everything. That sounds like a really great idea,
So all of a sudden it went from okay, save money, I got to rebel again, because entrepreneurs are rebels by nature. I mean, true entrepreneurs, they say, okay, well, how do we make this better? How do we fix the norm, right? And then so that basically was your first glimpse of what it was like for you to be an entrepreneur. But then you were rebelling by saying, well, save money, forget that, I'm going to spend the money.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, look, I was a kid, right? I was in high school. I was buying all the stupid things. Like, did it matter that much? I don't think it made any difference, Right. It wasn't fun, because it would basically mean I get the money, I spend it in a day, have to beg my parents for more money. Right? That's how the conversation went. Because I was not born and raised in this like entrepreneurial family. Uh-huh. Like, I never had a lemonade stand or anything similar like that, unfortunately.
Right.
Like, because nobody in my family is an entrepreneur, so I was just never really exposed to that. Like, it wasn't even an idea that came to mind, right? Because a lot of people have this idea. I was like, oh, like, you'll earn more money by doing chores or whatever. There was nothing like that with my family. Like, zero entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, they didn't use money for any kind of leverage or any kind of incentive, right?
Yeah, like, there was never a monetary incentive for me. I mean, I could get a job and, like, work. So I would do like the summer jobs and like do some things with Excel spreadsheets and make some money here and there. But a lot of times it would just like be, like my parents giving me spending money, like in primary school or whatever. And it's very easy to just spend that for me. So that was like my very early, money story that kind of like defined my life before I was an entrepreneur.
Right. So how did it show up before you realized, I got, because you obviously got it handled so that it stopped getting in the way.
Yeah.
But how did it first show up as an adult to get in the way of, you being an entrepreneur or you getting to where you are today? Yeah.
So I'll be honest, like, I think when I became an entrepreneur, I actually became pretty good with money, pretty fast. And that's what we'll talk about today, like aggressively investing in yourself. Like that I got really great at. However, you know, there were moments where I would still spend way too much money on, you know, just stupid shit. And that probably slowed down my entrepreneurial journey, right? Because, you know, even like when I started making, you know, like a couple of thousand a month, which is much more than most people in Slovenia make, I would be like, well, let me just fly business class all the time. Let me, you know, go to these fancy restaurants all the time, buy these expensive headphones. I would just buy stuff, like a lot of stuff.
Just be a drug dealer. Drug dealer lifestyle.
pretty much, right? Like, I would just buy like all of this really stupid stuff, like buy a longboard that I would use like once, and I would buy like this. I would buy like 3 different parts or 3 different kinds of like Beats headphones that I would like wear 3 times, and I would just like spend money on stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, the good side is that I also spend money on other things, like online courses, conferences, travel that actually, you know, helped me grow my business. So it was like, you know, I learned how to get my fix of spending stuff, but then I would actually use that stuff to grow my business. Mm-hmm. So it turned into this money story almost of investing in myself. And the moment when that actually happened was, so I was working, it was like on the, like almost like, let's say, at the very beginning of my entrepreneurial career, right? Mm-hmm. So I was working as a computer programmer. I was making about $7 per hour. That's about $1,000 per month, which for a college student in Slovenia is actually not bad. The average salary in Slovenia is maybe like, what, 1,200 a month? Mm-hmm. Something like that is like the average salary. So that was pretty good. It was more than most students would make. And at that point, I was still living with my parents. So, you know, I had no living expenses. Mm-hmm. And I was making $1,000 a month, right? And that's a lot of money in Slovenia. Like, that buys you a lot of stuff.
Right.
And in the beginning, I would just spend it on stupid things and clothes and whatever. But then I started reading this personal development blog from Scott H. Young. Mm-hmm. And he wrote a little bit about like, you know, just like living this better life and being productive and everything. And I really dug his content. And I just like emailed him. I was like, hey, you know, I'm making like $1,000 a month. I have like no idea what to do with this money. And I know I spent it stupidly in the past. Like, I don't want to just buy stupid stuff now. So, you know, do you have any tips or whatever, you know, like to help me out? Like, I was this 20-year-old kid. I didn't know how to ask great questions, but I was like, what do I do with this money, right? So he responded to me and he sent me a link to this website called I Will Teach You to Be Rich from Ramit Sethi. And he said like, hey, read his book. So I was like, okay. And at first it was like this really weird thing because like who runs a website called I Will Teach You to Be Rich? And you know, it's like it was this Indian dude, like he had a fluorescent green and you know a big book, like it looks super scammy. But I was like, okay, I'll order the book on Amazon. You know, well I'll see how it is. And so I ordered that book and I started reading it, and that was like my first actual education about money because before nobody actually educated me about money. I had no idea about investing, saving, you know, like.
Do you think you were lucky that nobody really kind of pre-taught you a perception and it just left it kind of like a blank slate? Or
I mean, yeah, I mean, like again, like I did have this money story of like you should save all of your money, right? Or like as much as you can. So I did have that background.
But you rebelled against it. It's like, I'm not going to do that.
I did. But this guy, you know, like this guy was different because this guy seemed to like really get me, and he wrote like really interesting stuff and like he swore a lot. So I was like, okay, I like this guy, right?
Yeah.
So I read that book, and in the book, like one of the chapters talks about freelancing. You know, it talks about how to, you know, you can actually make more money rather than, you know, like just cut on costs and, you know, kind of like, you know, just save as much as possible. Because, you know, the author said like, hey, it's always easier to make more money, you know, because it's unlimited potential on how much more you can make, but there is a limited, you know, potential to how much you can save. And that idea really resonated with me. It was like, so basically, I can make more money and spend more money and save money as well.
And save money as well, right?
And save money as well, right?
Yeah.
So that idea became really interesting, but like it took a while for me to really, you know, build my own business and everything. But after I read that book, you know, this guy sold a freelance course. It was called Earn 1K. It was supposed to help you, you know, make $1,000 a month freelancing. And I was like, that's interesting. So that was like my first money decision where my patterns kind of changed. So I was making $1,000 per month. The course was $997, you know?
Right.
I didn't even have a credit card at that point because 20-year-old kids in Slovenia at that point didn't have credit cards. Like there was no way of getting one. Like it was really difficult process to get one. There were no even like debit cards and things like that. Like I could not pay for a course online. So what I had to do was go to my mother and say like, hey, I really like this online thing about building a business from this guy that looks a little bit scammy. And it's a website called I Will Teach to Be Rich. Can I send you money and then you like send you money in advance and then you make the payment with your credit cards for me? And it took like 2 days to convince her. And, if you know how the marketing funnels work, you usually have this like 3-day urgency window.
Yeah.
So it was like, shit, I have 3 days to buy this course. I really want to buy that. It's my mom in like 3 days to like basically pay for me and like I would give her the money.
Right.
And then somehow like I think on the last day I managed to convince her and she let me buy the course. And, that was my first experience of investing in myself. And, like long story short, I took that course. Took me a while to get my business started. Went for like 2 ideas that didn't work out. The third one did. And then since the beginning of like when the third idea started working out, I think within the first year I made like 30K, which was like 3 times as much as I was making before. But I was doing actually something that I actually loved, right? Which at that point was like productivity coaching for online poker players. Super weird niche, but
productivity coaching for online poker players.
Yeah.
What was that? How did you making them more productive in poker or in life?
Yeah, in poker. So look, if online poker players play more, if they're more focused when they play, they make more money. That was my pitch, and it worked, and it made sense.
Yeah.
So there was like a crazy business idea that I had, but like when I took that, when I built that business, I realized, so I took this one online course and spent $1,000 on that, but then I made 30K out of that. That's basically 30 times the investment. That's much better than any, that putting money
any savings account.
Exactly. Which, by the way, was like super difficult to even do in Slovenia because, like, if I wanted to invest in any of the stocks that were like recommended in that book, I would have to trade online and I would have to have like 10K to even do that. Yeah. And it was just like so complicated. So I was like, but I can join courses like this, and if I do the work and implement the stuff because it seems to work, I'll just make more money, right? That was my mentality. And I really, really, used that mentality in the next few years of my business. So I would aggressively invest in myself. Like I would, fly out for these conferences that, cost like 5K. Mm-hmm. I would travel to the States a lot to, meet up with future business mentors and other people, who are, like a few steps above me, get new opportunities and so on and so on. And that was one of the things that really helped me grow my business. Because look, in Slovenia, nobody really does what I do to this day. 5-6 years later, very few people actually, run a business with online courses or like, with online coaching, that would have like customers all over the world. Almost nobody does that. And I think like I'm still like one of the few people that does it to this day. Yeah. And the only way for me to learn how to create this kind of a business was to go to the US, was to buy online courses because I didn't have access to this kind of information.
Right.
So that's what I did, and I invested in myself, and it just kept, paying off. Like I would spend 5K on this conference, but then I would really make sure because I spent 5K, and it was like the most money I've, ever like had in my life, and I spent it on this conference. I made sure I would like just implement the advice no matter how uncomfortable I felt or how scary it was or how weird it was. I just learned how to, trust people and do what they say.
Yeah.
And again, it worked. Like within a month, I doubled my revenue. Within 2 months, I tripled my revenue since going to that conference.
Right.
So like I would always have this pattern of like, aggressively investing in myself. So, even later down the line, I would join this like 25K masterminds and things like that. I would always make investments that were super aggressive for my stage of business, but it always paid off because I learned so many things that would then help me take my business to the next level. Right. And I also said to myself, am I spending all this money? I better work my ass off to, actually make it happen.
Well, I love that because, one of my biggest things about people who invest in these programs, because there's a lot of people out there who invest aggressively, but that they complain that they're not getting the results sometimes. And so, I'm wondering if, what is the difference then? Because you hear it all the time, I'm sure, that people invest tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into all these programs and courses and gurus and and coaches even that, and And then they come back and they say, I got nothing out of it. I mean, how does that even happen, right?
Well, they didn't do the work. I mean, it's very simple.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've seen it over and over again, and you can, like, you can have this discussion of, like, whose fault is it, you know? Is it, like, the course creator's fault? Because we have all these online courses nowadays, and you join them and you see, like, how many people succeed with them, and it's, like, 2%. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, you have courses that, like, you know, like my online course, like more than 50% of the people succeed in it because I run it differently, because it's not this huge passive course. Like, it's actually a live training with a lot of feedback and support, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, like, look, is it their fault? Maybe. I do think, you know, like, that you as a course creator or as a coach, it's kind of your responsibility to help people succeed.
Sure.
Now, having said that, you know, then it's also up to you, you know, if you join an online course, if you join a mastermind, if you spend, you know, if you throw 25K at a mastermind, doesn't mean your business is going to double. Like, because you will have to work your ass off.
You can get feedback. Right.
Yeah, you can get feedback there. You can get help. You can get information, but information is nothing without taking action, right? It's like you're not going to get anywhere. So I could consume all the information from online courses, and I see a lot of people do that, but they never actually take the steps to do it. Like, either it's not a priority for them. You know, I see a lot of people, they want to run this kind of a side business. They spend like 3 hours on their business a week, and I'm like, guess what? Like, you're not going to run a business on 3 hours a week.
You're going to get 3 hours results.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I imagine, like, because it is this really weird thing with online entrepreneurs, honestly. Like, it's like, okay, I'm going to start a side business, and like, it's also like people write in their copy, oh, you only need 5 hours a week, right? But I'm thinking, well, what would it look like if I opened a restaurant and I worked for 3 hours a week? I would not have a restaurant.
No.
It's like, dude, I mean, like, I could have a lemonade stand, maybe that would work, but then I would make, you know, $5 a week, you know, or like 20.
50 cents a drink.
Exactly. It's like, it makes no sense. Or like, if I open a grocery store and work 3 hours a week, like, it's not going to be much of a grocery store. Yeah. So there's a lot of things, like, from priorities, from dedicating the time. Then, you know, like, look, we're all human beings, and for some of us, it's easier to, you know, act in spite of our fears. Mm-hmm. Other people, maybe they were not taught how to do that.
Right.
You know, so, like, I don't know what the issue is. Like, I can always talk about, you know, what are some of the ways which have helped me, you know, get the most out of online courses. Right. But look, there's a lot of different reasons, you know. Right. I think it is situational from course to course and from person to person to some extent.
Exactly. No, I absolutely agree. And I love that you finished it up with that statement, because you're right. Everybody's a little bit different. Not everybody's like you and me who can just go out there. We got something, integrate it, execute, because not everybody's designed the same way. But you're able to get 50% of the people who sign up for your courses to get results. So you must have some intuitive way of being able to elicit the best out of people so they actually get results. Because not every one of your students, I'm sure, are at maximum doers like you are. Right?
No, I don't think they are, you know. I mean, some of them, like, look, it's always like everywhere. And by the way, when we're talking about these things, they sound very absolute. They sound very, like, fixed. I don't like that approach. Like, I'm more a fan of, like, growth mindset. So I think, especially, like, sometimes we see these people who seem to just, like, implement everything in like 2 minutes, and we're wondering, like, how did you get so much shit done in like a week? Like that, like, it's like your brain doesn't process that. Right. What I want to emphasize is you can get there. With a lot of practice, with changing your patterns, changing your behaviors, I think anyone can get on that level when they execute really quickly. Mm-hmm. So I think some people might beat up themselves and say, like, oh, I'm just not that kind of a person. I'm not like the top 1% of the students. Right. Therefore, I'm screwed, right? Don't take that mentality, because yes, some people might write faster. The reason why they write faster is because they've probably done a lot more writing in their lives that that you have. Like, first Ultimate Guide, which huge blog post that I wrote, took me like 6 months to write. Now I can write the same kind of guide in 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, a lot of it is
like
just practice. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it is just practice, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, like, I have noticed that, for example, when you develop an online course or something like that and you want to help people succeed, a lot of course creators, they design courses with, like, their idea of, like, with themselves in mind. Right? They don't think, like, I heard a lot of people say, I don't want to do live calls because that takes too much time and energy. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but also, realize if you're doing that, like your completion rate is just gonna go way down if you have this huge, 10-week online course. Because people by themselves, they won't go for the 10 weeks. Most of the people won't. So I do think it's kind of like your responsibility as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as someone to actually have people implement stuff. It's like, for example, I think it's your responsibility if you sell really premium TVs, they're really hard to set up. You could sell them, people could try to set them up themselves and fail, or you could come in and do it for them and set it up for them, right? Or give them a really good manual that helps them do things, right? So when I develop online courses, I always think about people's success in mind. I'm thinking how, again, that's the start, right? When I designed my online course, I thought okay, what are all the things they need to cover? And then I was thinking, how do I actually help people get there? What are all the things that they need? So I was thinking, okay, so one thing is how long should the online course be? What's realistic for most people? I know I can write an ultimate guide in 2 weeks, but what's realistic for most people, And at the beginning, I said 10 weeks. It turned out 14 weeks was the number that's a sweet spot. And again, some people do it faster. They speed through it and they can do it in a couple of weeks. But most people that, are my audience who maybe have these side hustles and they want to, scale them, it takes them 14 weeks, and I developed that over time, and I was thinking, okay, so instead of creating the course over 4 weeks, which would be super overwhelming for people, I'm breaking it down to the smallest possible steps. So every week there is actually 5 to 10 hours of work a week, and then if they want to, they can speed through it, and I encourage them to do that. But if not, they have this spread out course, and it's it takes you exactly this amount of time. And then it's just this week work on this, next week work on this, next week work on this. So it's unconventional because most courses right now is 4 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever. I was no, I don't give a shit how long the other courses are. I want to create a 14-week course. So that's one thing. The other thing was okay, thinking about support. What kind of support do people need to write these gigantic guides, right? So I was thinking, okay, so I think people will do better at it if they have, if they're in this together with other people. So I said, okay, not only are we doing this course for 14 weeks, but I'm going to run this course live. So for 14 weeks, I'll be there with you. We'll have a weekly call. You'll come in. You'll tell me if you're stuck. I'll answer your questions. I'll give you feedback. Make sure that your guides are really, really good. That worked exceptionally well because every person who showed up to the calls, and then again, that is up to people to actually show up. I can't force them to do it. But it's every person that shows up to the calls then ended up having a published ultimate guide. The other thing is I also customized these calls. So I sent at the beginning of the course, cohort, I sent out a survey and I was hey, what time works best for you? So I could actually find a time that not works best for me, but actually works best for the most people in the course. So that's another small detail, right? Then it's things like creating worksheets. Then it's things like having some kind of a coaching community in the background. A lot of these things, I did work really, really well, but I think the underlying thing is just I'm designing this course. How can I maximize the chances of success? I think at one point, jumped on one-on-one calls with people who had their guides, 70% finished, but were stuck. And I was hey, if you're working on your guide, but you're not finished yet at this point, I'll jump on a one-on-one call with you, for 30 minutes free of charge. I just want to help you finish your guide. And things like that, I don't see almost anyone else doing in the industry. Why? Because it's a lot of work and because it doesn't scale that well. But I do think it's kind of the right thing to do. And even if you personally don't want to invest that time, I do think it's your responsibility as a coach or course creator to hire another person. Maybe you hire a coach who does the work for you. There's no excuse for that apart from oh, you just don't want to spend the extra money. Well, yeah, you're not going to spend the extra money, but then your audience is not going to get the extra results, right? So that's kind of my mentality around that.
Yeah, I mean that's a sustainability factor. It creates longevity in your business, and the fact that if you the more results that you get, successful clients you get, the bigger you can grow the business. I find this really amazing and fascinating that because Slovenia isn't a country, it doesn't sound like it's a country that where they, like you were saying, they don't really push the whole money thing. It's a taboo to talk about it from the cultural standpoint. And I mean, and when we talk about you creating a 6-figure business and stuff like that, we're talking about universally around the world that you can, if you had a place in the U.S. and living here in the U.S., you could still be making more, just as much money, if not more. You could survive totally fine in the U.S. So I can only imagine with the economy the way it is in Slovenia. I mean, you must be living like a king there for the most part. I mean, like a drug dealer.
Not exactly. So look, like I don't drive fancy cars or whatever.
Right.
We do have a big apartment because me and my girlfriend, we both work from home. So I like to have my home office, and she's a photographer, so she likes to have a big, studio.
Nice, right.
And yeah, and we also have a guest room for, people, because I love hosting people, and like that's really important to me, which doubles up as my office.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's important to me. So we do that, and like yeah, we do have things like we do have the freedom like to do things that are important for us. It doesn't mean we splurge on like stupid shit all the time, but like for example, having a personal trainer, like we both have a personal trainer because health is really important to us, and like we realized that we just can't get ourselves to go to the gym. Like 3 years ago, 5 years ago, like I was a skinny fat entrepreneur, and now I'm like not a skinny fat entrepreneur. A lot of people still like have a lot of muscle.
Yeah, no, you're actually pretty built. I was like,
Yeah.
what? You used to be what, skinny and fat?
I was super skinny fat. Like there's these two photos that I have like on the same beach in the exact same swimsuit, like weighing the exact same amount. And dude, I was like, look, I was living the entrepreneur lifestyle,
Right.
living in front of your computer, all day long, no exercise, and eating at a lot of fancy restaurants and having a bottle of wine, tasting many bottle of wine, 3 times a week. It adds up, right?
Yeah.
But then I appreciate having this ability to hire a personal trainer and not worry about the costs, and get myself to be healthy and strong and everything.
Right.
I wouldn't maybe most people don't have that opportunity in Slovenia, so
Right.
that's why like money means a lot of freedom to me, a lot of traveling, a lot of like doing things that I really enjoy doing.
Right.
And yeah, I'll have like like a Chevy Camaro one day because I love that car so much. Like I drove it here like in Cancun for like a few days and I was obsessed with it. But it's not something I need today, right? It's like, when my business grows, I'll have it someday, and I'll love, like taking road trips around Europe and stuff. But it's like I'm not living like, I'm not going to these fancy dinners, every day. I had that period of my life maybe in the beginning because I was like, all this money. But then nowadays I'm just like, look, I just like, I eat healthy, I work out, and, like
you're growing up. You're growing up, Primoz.
I know, it's great, right?
I actually used to have a
feeling.
Camaro Z28, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, with an LT1 Corvette engine in it. I drove that for a little bit. So, yeah, I know. It's a fun car.
Yeah, it's very
fun. I
fun.
took it to 155 miles per hour before, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was at the racetrack, right?
Yeah. You sure? Yeah. It was on the racetrack.
It was definitely on the racetrack.
But, so speaking of health and everything like that, it's such a big 180 from where you were before. I saw an old picture that you showed me and stuff like that to where you are today, which is, I have to admit, being a personal trainer and stuff like it's admirable. I mean, you've done a fantastic job with your trainer getting about it. Now, has that impacted your business? Has that impacted your focus, your clarity, your ability to kind of like really operate at a higher level in your business, being that much healthier?
I mean, yes. Look, right now it's difficult for me to compare, where I was like 3 years ago versus where I was 6 years ago. And, because right now, like, I'll provide a little bit more context. Nowadays, I'm actually competing in powerlifting professionally. So I had this stage, I was a skinny fat entrepreneur. And then
so ladies who are listening to this, if you want to actually see an Adonis type of physique, go check him out go to his Facebook, go to wherever. I mean, you can just Google him and you probably find it. Stalk him. And his girlfriend is an amazing photographer, and so took some really good photos of him. And so anyway, go on.
Yeah. So look, like I was a skinny fat entrepreneur. Then I decided to just get healthier. I mean, I didn't give a shit about getting healthier. I wanted a six pack back. That's all I wanted. Look, that's all I wanted.
Honest,
I just wanted a six pack, so I got that. And that transition was probably like made a pretty big impact because I do remember being more tired and stuff. And then I was definitely less tired and more focused and everything. But then, I went to the gym for a few years and I started getting stronger, and then I discovered this sport of like, lifting really heavy things and then competing in it, which is called powerlifting. So I've been doing that like professionally, and by professionally I mean like I've won like 3 gold medals at national competitions.
Wow.
I'm competing in Arnold Classic competition from Arnold Schwarzenegger in Barcelona this fall.
Wow.
And then planning on going to European and World Championships. So that's like the level I'm competing in. I spend like 15 hours in the week, the gym and so on and so on. So nowadays, like the way that I have my workout plan designed, like I want to tell you, hey, I feel better, which I do, but also when you train on this professional level, the thing is, like, every 4 to 5 weeks you get really tired because you basically push your body to the limits.
Right.
So I will say, I also know as I'm doing this, like, my business is taking a toll on those like 1 to 2 weeks, because I wake up and I'm like just tired, exhausted, right? So look, like, eating healthy and exercising 3 times a week, I think that helps a lot. What I'm doing right now maybe is not the best for energy and focus.
You're competing. It's like a whole career in itself.
Yeah, of course. But here's what I will say, like, lifting professionally has taught me so many things about focus, going into that flow state, about gradual improvement, about deliberate practice, about concentration, grit. Like, there's so many other things that this has taught me, and the thing that it most taught me was, like, really being a professional. Because before I had a very, like, I would have this mindset of, like, I'll just do whatever I want, right? I'll work whenever I want. I'll work on the things that are interesting to me. And it would be very hard for me to stick with some kind of a plan, just very random and haphazard. And that got me to a certain level in business. But, I realized at a certain level, like, hey, it's actually holding me back. And it was not through business that I learned how to do it, but it was through lifting where I learned how to, become more patient and stick with a plan and, trust the process more. Okay. And now I can apply that back to my business. And, also, like, a lot of the content, a lot of things that I create nowadays, like, I'm taking a lot of lessons from this lifting world and I'm tailoring them back to the business world, because I think there's new concepts that nobody else is talking about. Right. So that's how it's also helping me and supporting me.
So how important would you say then for an entrepreneur to make sure they have a life outside of entrepreneurship so they can make their business more robust? Because it sounds like, because I do the same thing. I take elements out of my life and things that I experience and I bring it back into the business. As opposed to just being very unilateral, just this is my work, this is my business, this is all I do. How important would you say it is it for an entrepreneur especially to have a life outside of business so that you can actually bring more, like you said, color into the business?
I don't think it's the thing that will make or break your business, honestly, because I've seen both sides of the equation. Like, I've seen entrepreneurs here in New York City that work all day long and they're fine. I mean, they still take the time to go for a massage or whatever and relax, but you would not really say that they really have a huge life outside of business. Like, they don't have a ton of hobbies and they're successful. I've seen entrepreneurs who are really successful who play a lot of video games, at night, and, that works for them, like just spending hours and hours playing video games. That works for them. Right. And I've seen other entrepreneurs that work for 4 hours a day, and they spend a lot of time just reading and doing things. So I don't think it's that correlated, but I do think it's important for me. Right? Right. I know that if I work, all day long and like I do nothing else outside of business, I just burn myself out really, really quickly. And I can't stand that. Like, I've had those periods of my life. It was not fun. I was deeply unhappy. So for me, that didn't work. Right. You have to figure out for you whether for you it works or it's not working. But for me, I know, like, having this lifting in my life, even though a lot of people tell me, oh, you're spending so much time on that, you shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. I know that, like, lifting is the time when I can really disconnect from the whole world. Yeah. And just do these things. They're fun, like mentally disconnect. I might read a book in between or something like that. I hang out with other lifting friends. Like, that's a great mental break from business. And also, like, I'm not at a computer all day long. I actually go around. I actually move, get out of the house, which I usually don't otherwise. So that is important to me. And then what else is important to me? Like, I take weekends off. I don't work on weekends for my business, like 99% of the cases. If I have a launch, I might break that rule, once or twice a year. Right. But in 99% of the cases, I don't work on weekends. And then I do make sure, that evenings are off from work as well. So whenever possible, I would either play board games or some kind of card games, with my friends and competitive stuff, go bowling, spend time with my girlfriend. Right. So I do take a lot of time off, and I do spend a lot of time lifting, and then I do spend a lot of time on my business. But that's really it. I don't have any extra hobbies or, other things. Like, that's how my life looks.
It sounds like a pretty cool lifestyle. Yeah, I mean, you've got a nice little harmonious balance between all the two, doing what you love, spending time with your girlfriend, spending time with friends, and then also spending time with work. And despite that, still having a successful business. What I love about what you shared right there is that there's a lot of, like, entrepreneurs who still approach it with a zero-sum mindset. It's like either either this or that. They have to choose to create, to live a life. So, how did, because there's, as you were becoming an entrepreneur, how did you figure out or how did you know to calibrate on, okay, this is not the kind of life I want, and be able to shift and pivot quick enough? Because, we hear it all the time. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that spend like 20, 30 years, and it's like, this is not the life I wanted. I want to be able to pivot and shift and just create that life, to figure out that, okay, well, lifting's important. I'm going to do that. Spending time with my girlfriend's important. I'm going to do that. And to actually make time doing that so that without having to sacrifice your business, the growth of your business.
So one thing that I try to do is I try to make really quick decisions, which is not that hard, because when I get frustrated, I get really frustrated. When I get unhappy, I get really unhappy.
Right.
So I actually had this situation like, a few weeks ago when I realized, like, I was doing all these podcast interviews and coaching calls and everything, and I was doing it like every day, like from Monday to Friday, I had like 2-3 hours of calls at least, sometimes, 6. And it was driving me nuts, like, because I had no freedom. Like, if I wanted to go and, take a day off, I couldn't.
Right. Well, I'm glad you showed up for my podcast, so that's thank you for that.
Yes, even though we're in New York City. No, of course. So, like, I had a lot of these things going on, and I was like, well, it's because I kind of forgot about the things that were important to me and, like, how I like to schedule my stuff. And then I said to myself, well, what can I do about this? So I changed my schedule, and I was like, okay, Mondays, Tuesdays, no calls. You're actually one of the last interviews that I do on a Tuesday. In the future, I'm just going to do like Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays.
I'm closing it off for you.
You are. I think you're literally the last person I do something with on Tuesday.
Perfect.
But yeah, like in the future, I'll do just like Wednesday to Friday, and ideally even like just Thursdays, Fridays, and like that's it. And I know that creating this kind of freedom, like even I've tried it now, like last week I had no calls Mondays, Tuesdays, and it was like amazing because I could actually write again. I could, like if I want to travel like from Saturday to Tuesday, I can do it because I don't have to worry about rescheduling a lot of calls. So usually for me, like when I have a lifestyle that I don't enjoy, which does happen, like, let's say every few months, there's the one thing that starts really annoying me. I just can't stand that, and I just change it. And I'm like, okay, I'm sick of working for email. I'm going to hire an assistant to help me out with that, right?
Right.
Like, I take these decisions instantly because I don't like to suffer.
Right.
Like some people, go through these times and they keep like suffering. I really hate it.
Yeah.
And I do it. So I just like, okay, so how do I solve this problem?
So why do you think that is? Why do you think people choose to suffer? As entrepreneurs, when you are supposed to have the freedom to kind of live a life, any life you want. You know what I mean? You see it all the time.
There's a great book it's my favorite book that you've probably never heard of. So it is my absolute favorite book that I've ever read. And it's also a book that you've probably never read or even heard of.
Okay.
The book is called Why We Think the Way We Do and How to Change It. It's from Thomas Garvey and someone.
I think I've heard that before. Yeah.
It's a relatively new book. It's from an acting school that talks a lot about acting and like how you can, put yourself into like another person's mind. But then when they ran some kind of workshops on acting, they got a lot of feedback from people like, oh, this is really useful for acting, but like also my overall life. So they decided to take their workshops, take their concepts and turn them into a book that anyone can use to basically notice and change their thinking. So if you're ever like, and I know this has happened for me, right? Like if you ever are in a situation when you want to do something, but you just can't seem to get yourself to do it. It's like, oh, I'm going to start working out. And then, like you work out for like 2 days and like, then you stop doing it. Like if you had a situation like that, or like, oh, I'm going to start writing consistently, or like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But then you couldn't get yourself to do it consistently. It's probably some underlying thinking, whether it's like some subconscious thinking, some kind of thinking patterns holding you back. Where that comes from, usually some childhood moments, like, I don't want to get deep into that, but it is true that, like, it's usually related to some kind of experience we have early on in our lives.
Right.
And that experience then shapes our stories that we tell ourselves. So, for example, like, the question was about, let's say, suffering, right? So it's like, like, why do some people stay really frustrated and don't do anything about it? Well, maybe they saw that with their parents, like that, they were working a job that they were, really unhappy in. in for like 20 years and they didn't do anything about it. So they thought like, oh, if I want to belong to my parents, if I want my parents to like me, to love me, then I should do the same thing. Right. Maybe it's something like that, I don't know what exactly it might be for you, but what I have noticed is whenever something like that happens, like that book has always helped me figure out why it happens and how to change it. And I will say one more thing, like I definitely recommend you to read this book, but it's also probably the hardest book that I've ever read. It took me 6 months to read it. I would read like a chapter a week, and I wasn't super consistent with that. It's a very difficult book to read, and it's also difficult because like the part that's really going to help you is at the end, but also I think you should read the first part right, before you get to the end. But if you go and read through this book, like it can literally change your life. Like I said earlier, like I've given it to like all of my clients for coaching, and every single person that read it like absolutely loved it, and also said it's the most difficult book that they've ever read.
What's the book?
Look, like if you're
what's the book?
Why We Think the Way We Do It.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I posted it in the comments.
Yeah, it's the same book. Why We Think the Way We Do and How to Change It. You can find it on Amazon. It's like this white book with like green letters.
Yeah,
it's a phenomenal book.
There's a dude with glasses on it, just like adjusting it and stuff like that. So
yeah, I don't really have time to Google during podcast interviews, but I'm glad you're finding time to do that.
Yeah. Wait, what are you saying? No, I have to post these comments here because they.
I know.
That way people know that you're recommending books and they can go there and stuff like that. Now, if you gave me an affiliate link, I would have posted that for you.
Yeah, let me spell it out for you. I memorized it. Yeah. Just kidding. No affiliate link. I think the book like is really the best kept secret. I don't think they do a very good job of promoting it.
Right.
I'm probably like its biggest fan. Just like sharing it on every podcast that I go on. But look, like it's such a good book, and definitely like if you read it, let me know how you enjoyed it.
It's a great title. Why We Think the Way We Do and How to Change. It's like, well, why wouldn't anybody want that, right? So, and I'm all about change and transformation. So, I will check it out. I'll pick that up today. You sold another one for them.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I think I appreciate you sharing that book because I think a lot of people choose to suffer and they don't realize they're choosing to suffer. Especially entrepreneurs, it's like your whole goal as an entrepreneur is to, like you're saying, create your definition of what freedom is to you. And I'm pretty sure most people's definition of freedom isn't to suffer.
No.
Like, to suffer on your spare time. But people do that. We see it all the time, right? With our clients, with our peers and our colleagues. And then here you are, you're creating this amazing lifestyle. You have every reason not to do it because you're from Slovenia. You don't have all the resources that you had to do. You actually have to come to America to take some of these seminars over here and then fly all the way back. And then come to America or buy courses from here and then go back. And despite all that, you still were able to pivot and shift and change and create a successful business that you can run from pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
So as we're getting close to the end of today's podcast, which is interesting, we're already running out of time. Tell me a little bit more about the steps that you took. You went from productivity for poker players, and then your next business was not this one, right? It was something else.
So let's do it like really quickly, right?
Yeah.
Did a productivity business for poker players. I did that by writing this thing called an ultimate guide. It was very accidental. I went on a poker forum. I read a lot of productivity books. I thought, hey, this could help poker players. I started writing an article, like a forum post. It's called The Quick Guide to Skyrocketing Your Poker Productivity. If you Google poker productivity, it's going to be one of the top results to this day. So that guide, it became like this 26,000 word forum post, actually. It's not even on a website. And because of that guide, people considered me like an expert in this topic because nobody else was sharing information on this topic to other people in a good way, right? And people would start coming to me and they'd start hiring me. And that single guide was the biggest reason why I was able to build that first big coaching business.
Wow.
That made like 38K in the first year.
Yeah.
And I did that for a while. Then I kind of got bored of working with poker players because I was thinking, well, I'm meeting all of these entrepreneurs in the US and they're making a big impact. I can't really say that to myself. When I tell people I work with poker players, they say oh, so you're a gambler. So, that wasn't fun. Try convincing people. That was difficult. So
you're a gambler from Slovenia.
Yeah, I didn't even play poker. That's the thing. I just worked with poker players, right? So, like I did that, and then I also, realized like, hey, this is not a business idea I like talking to people about, and also the people that I was helping, even though I helped them make more money, they were not creating more value. They were just taking more money from gamblers, essentially. That's what you do in online poker. And also, like, I couldn't really say, like, oh, I could speak about this stuff at conferences. Like, I wanted to do something bigger, more impactful.
Right.
So my next thing was I took the knowledge that I had, I transitioned into this world of teaching productivity to online entrepreneurs and executives. That was still like quite a few years ago. I worked on that idea for a while, built this blog, that you can find at primozbozic.com. So I built this blog and created a couple of online courses. So I did that for a while. Then I had this 2-year period of actually working with Ramit Sethi. Like there's a lot more to that story that we can really share right now. But just long story short is took a lot of his courses, got amazing results with them. He noticed that we kind of like became friends. We built this relationship, and then he invited me to work with his company to help other people achieve similar results with his online courses, right? And what I did is I created this 7-figure program for him called Accelerator, where it would basically accelerate the growth of people's online businesses that joined his online courses. So I did that for 2 years. I brought in a team. I developed the product basically from scratch into this amazing 7-figure a year business, and did that for 2 years. And then about a year and a half ago, so it was like December of 2016? Yeah, December 2016, I realized, hey, this was amazing, great learning experience, but I want to do a thing of my own now and, really create something that I'm known for.
Right.
And that's when, I transitioned back to running my own business full time. And I had to do something. I didn't really want to do productivity anymore because I've been thinking about it for like 5 years and I got bored of it. And that's when this idea of ultimate guides came out, because I realized, hey, ultimate guides were the common denominator that helped me build, all of my online businesses. Like in the beginning, the poker business built by ultimate guides. The productivity business, I wrote more ultimate guides, like to creating bulletproof habits, to surrounding yourself with successful people. And those pieces of content like brought like 10 times or 50 times more traffic to my website than regular blog posts.
Right.
So I was thinking, there's something there. Yeah. So then I tested that idea. I took on some coaching clients. I built this huge online course called the Ultimate Guide System. And that's, where I essentially am today. Like a year and a half later, we have this amazing course. Lots of people follow through with it. They get amazing results with it, like thousands of email subscribers, many paying customers from just writing one ultimate guide.
Right.
So that's the business that I run today.
So that's so cool. So do you believe that every business could have an ultimate guide?
Absolutely. Look, ultimate guides, they kind of became my thing, right? Like, I think I'm the only person teaching them really, really well. Like, if you Google how to write an ultimate guide, you'll find a few articles. Most of them are like really shitty. Not many people really talk about the process.
Right.
No, it's not the only thing. I'm not the only person creating them. Right? There's, Ramit Sethi, he has like 12 ultimate guides. Neil Patel has like 12 ultimate guides. Websites like Lead Pages, they use ultimate guides. So they're great for like SaaS companies. Like even Zapier uses ultimate guides. There's also, like freelancers can use ultimate guides to attract more clients, and consultants. Like we have this client, he's writing, ultimate guides to Facebook Live. So he gets Facebook Live consulting clients.
Right.
I do think like almost any business can use an ultimate guide. Like even like I would go as far as to say like, a brick and mortar business, because use an ultimate guide for sure. Like it depends a lot on the context, but essentially, look, what are ultimate guides? They're just really freaking good content that's available online for free. So they're like 10 to 25,000 words long, which is maybe a quarter of a book, right? And books are evergreen, and books can help any business, right? So ultimate guides, they're like the smaller brother of books.
Right.
And you can publish them online as a blog post, use them as like a lead magnet to grow your email list, to get more leads, things like that.
Sure.
But people do notice the difference between 5 steps to having a successful product launch versus like the ultimate guide to launching your first online course. Because the first article is not really going to help people launch an online course, but the ultimate guide will probably guide them through all the steps that they need to take. People notice great content. People notice that they can get results with it. So I do think if you're in a business where you really want to help people get incredible results, when you want to share expertise and further establish yourself as an expert, then ultimate guides can really help you, first of all, help more people, but then also help your business.
Awesome. And the reason why I ask that is I think what I like to do is how do people now realize that, now that they know, oh, God, I don't have an ultimate guide. How do they connect with you to kind of take advantage of that? Or what can they do to kind of like get their first ultimate guide done?
Okay, so I don't know if I can share this with you. So here's the thing, right? My name is a little bit hard to spell or Google because it's Primoz Bozic, so I have to do something about that. Change my name, yes.
Yeah.
Fun fact while I Google this for you, if you translate my name, right?
Yeah.
The first part means first, because Primoz means
right.
Primus in Latin, and the second part, Bozic, means Christmas. So you can just remember it means first Christmas.
Oh, hey,
yes,
look at you.
Exactly. Now I'll chat you this link, and I'll also mention it.
Okay.
So you can go to primozbozic.com/themoneylab. But I think it's easier if you guys are looking at this like that. Wade just shares it in the chat. What you're gonna get there is the absolute best, most detailed piece of content online on creating ultimate guides. It's called the Ultimate Guide Checklist. I'll teach you the whole, process of how do you write an ultimate guide, what is an ultimate guide, who should write one, mistakes to avoid. Everything you can imagine is in there. It's absolutely free, and you can get it on the link below.
Awesome. So I just typed it into the Spreaker chat right there. So for those of you who are listening right now, you could pop on that over there. You can also access that after everything is done. It's going to be there forever. But Primoz is PRIMOZBOZIC.com/themoneylab. And make sure you remember the Money Lab. And I just clicked on through that, and it actually looks beautiful. Thank you for doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm an amazing designer. And full credit to Lead Pages for creating amazing landing pages.
So what it says here is it's a step-by-step 13,000-word ebook where you get to learn how to write your first ultimate guide. So it's a free ebook. So for those of you who are listening and want to get that your first ultimate guide done for your business, and like I said, every business, be it a restaurant, I could already see it, a restaurant that has a unique way of providing their food, the ultimate guide to having the best dining experience in, say, an Italian restaurant. Boom, get that down there, and so people can actually subscribe and start building your online marketplace. So I think this is a brilliant thing. Now, for people who go through that and they say, you know what? This is too much work. I need more help. I need more support. I need more guidance. How do they connect with you to maybe do coaching or even do your program?
Yeah, so the best thing to do would be honestly just get the ebook, because then you'll subscribe to my email list, and we're launching the program again end of summer. So if you want to join the email list, if you want to join the program, you'll have the option to do that. But I will say, look, just get started.
Yeah.
Don't wait for permission,
Right.
Yes, I can help you out, and I can help you write a really amazing guide, and we have this insane success rate in the course, but don't let that stop you from, just doing things. Even with the Ultimate Guide Checklist, we had so many people write Ultimate Guides, get amazing results with them. So look, I can always give you the extra support, but don't let that hold you back from taking action.
Yeah, I'm going to subscribe right now. No, I'll wait till we're done. So I thought I was going to sit in here and go, wait, listen to me while I type in and opt in.
Code links, subscribing to email lists. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Boy.
I'm multitasking like I shouldn't be. Anyway.
Yes, exactly. Leading by example.
I know.
Don't
I
do
that when I go to the gym too. I multitask when I'm at the gym too. I work out my bicep and my calf at the same time.
Nice. That's what I do as well, man.
Yeah, totally. It's called muscle confusion.
Yeah, exactly.
Which doesn't apply to entrepreneurship. You do not want to confuse your mind and your focus while you're doing so. Don't use that tactic. I don't think that'll work. But anyway, so thank you so much, Primoz. I'm pretty sure that we'll have an opportunity to bring you back, except you don't do Tuesdays anymore, so I don't know how that's going to happen. So we'll figure out, because we only do these on Tuesdays and whatnot. So maybe I'll do a on location. I'll go crash at your pad over in Slovenia, and then we'll have some fun, and we'll do a live event there. I have a guest room,
so you're welcome to get there. I don't know. Look, I make exceptions sometimes, rarely. That's true.
But I appreciate that. I feel so special all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Look, I also do appreciate candy, so you can send some my way.
Okay, cool.
So
as compensation. Or hard candy? Chocolate or hard candy?
No, actually, candy. Gummy bears and
Oh, you like the gummies and stuff like that? Okay.
any kind of candy. So like I can use that as a bribe to do a call with you. Tuesday we could do that, yeah.
Okay, I'll send you a care package with a basket full of candy. We'll do it that way.
That sounds like a dream come true.
All right, Primoz. So thank you so much again, and thank you for your generosity of sharing that, making that page just for our audience here. And I really look forward to hoping that some of the audience will take advantage of either your course or just your ebook even, and just kind of like understand how powerful that is. Because I know it's a great positioning piece. It's a great way to position yourself as an expert. And you're right. I mean, it lasts forever, and people will always be able to, people have gotten my ebook, and like years later they say, you know, I've been reading your ebook for the last 2 years. I'm like, what? It says, but now I'm ready. I'm like, okay, well, that works too.
Yeah, when you're ready, you're ready.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much. So I look forward to having you back again. Enjoy your time in New York. If you can, stick around after we close out for the show, and we'll just kind of debrief a little bit. Would that be cool?
That would be awesome. Thanks so much for having me, and see you in the future.
Yeah, brother, man. Okay, so that's our show for this week. Again, if you found this episode to be valuable and know of someone else that could benefit from what we talked about today, and if you didn't see that there's somebody that can benefit from this, then you probably want to watch this show again, because he was sharing a ton of information, really cool stuff about his journey and everything like that. So review us on iTunes, Spreaker, and like the episode on YouTube Live. And did you know we even have a Facebook group called The Money Lab? Join us there to dive even deeper into bad money story elimination strategies and connect with amazing individuals like Primoz to, you know, just kind of like network and everything like that. So that being said, that is a wrap. So take this week to apply the knowledge from today. Have an amazing week, and we'll catch you next week on the Money Lab Live podcast, where we will have Pamela Gregory, a speaker, entrepreneur, and a forgiveness specialist, which is paramount for entrepreneurs to move forward. So this is Wei from the Six Figure Academy, and Primoz signing off. Awesome. I think.
Sweet.
And then YouTube. See ya, YouTube fans, everybody. Awesome. I'm going to send Primoz off to enjoy the Big Apple for his time here. How long? Oh, well, I'll just sign off here. Okay. We'll see you guys later.
See you. Bye.